Hey guys, Mr. T here, just doing another video. This video is on writing the discussion of this investigation, the statistics one, and also this might be the most useful video because the assumptions and limitations that you talk about in the discussion is one of the trickier parts of writing a report. Because most people coming up into year 10, all you think about is just doing the maths and that's it. But in year 10, what you need to think about is that you've come up with some results. Okay, I've come up with the result that I think that gamers have better reflexes than non-gamers. However, it's a bit inconclusive because the range of the gamers is much wider than the non-gamers, so the gamers were less consistent than the non-gamers. Okay, so it doesn't all support my hypothesis. So what you're thinking about in the discussion is you're thinking about all of the assumptions and limitations that come with your assignment and the way that you did the report that might explain why your results aren't perfect. Okay? So it's almost going to feel like you're roasting your assignment. You're roasting what you did, and that's fine, okay? Because the more reasons that you can think of that make your results less accurate or less reliable, the more thoughtful that you're showing that you are. Okay, so here's some examples of an assumption. Remember, an assumption is something that you take to be true so that you can be able to do this assignment, and a limitation is something that you couldn't do in the first place because you're literally just doing a year 10 assignment. So here's some examples. Cost of you assume the cost and product of a service. You assume a triangle is right angled without going to measure it yourself. You assume variables don't change over time. You assume measuring devices are accurate. What are limitations? You can't actually go out and test your results or conclusions in real life. Having a small sample size. Do your findings apply elsewhere, or is it just limited to what you did? Rounding causing inaccuracy. So let's think about ours. There's one that we can see right here. So what we'll do is divide it up into assumptions and limitations. What was a main weakness? I left this weakness on purpose. Well, firstly, we need to introduce the discussion. While the results show some clear findings about the measures of center and measures of spread, it is important to realize that there are many assumptions and limitations behind these results, these results that were achieved that may make them less reliable. So now we go into, let's do assumptions. One significant assumption is the label of being a gamer. Students in this investigation were simply asked whether they considered if they were a gamer or not. They were not given specifics about what being a gamer meant or entailed. For example, playing for a certain number of hours per day or week, or what type of games. No, that's a separate assumption. We're just literally saying what makes a gamer or not. So I've stated the assumption here. The assumption is that labeling yourself a gamer actually means that you're a significant gamer, okay? So with every assumption, you need to talk about what it is, Tell me what the assumption and limitation is and explain the impact of each assumption and limitation on the results. Also, suggest methods to minimize the impact of these assumptions. I'm not going to go through every possible assumption or limitation you could have because they'd all be different, and if I stated all of them, everyone's discussion would be the exact same. So I'm going to give you an example here. Yeah, a few examples. For example, playing for a certain number of hours per day or week. This is a significant issue because the gamers group could possibly have data from people that play many hours per week, and also data from people that just like playing games every once in a while and identify as being a gamer but do not really play that much. Alright, so that's an impact of it. We have a massive range of people because they consider themselves as gamers because it's not very specific. This may very well explain the large range in reflex scores for the gamers group. An improvement to avoid this assumption is to be more specific about what it means to be a gamer. Okay, so that is an example of writing about an assumption, telling me what it is. I'll highlight that. Tell me what it is. This is also telling me what it is. What's the problem with it? It means that we have a massive range of different types of gamers, who some might not even really be gamers, okay? And how we can fix it by being more specific about what it means to be a gamer. For example, stating a particular amount of time spent playing video games to be able to call yourself a gamer. Highlight that. So those three colors represent what it is, what's the issue, how would it affect our data, and how to fix it. Okay. I'm only going to suggest other assumptions here. Assume that gamer title is representative of all different game types. This is an issue because some types of games might not be as reflex intensive. What if someone just likes playing really slow games versus someone who plays rhythm games a lot, for example? Yep. What's another assumption? Assume that the sample we collected from the class is representative of all people in the same age group and not just from this particular school area or socio-economic level, solid middle class. There's many more. Many more. You need to think of your own with these examples as a guide. You can think of them and ask me or your teacher if they are reasonable. So that's assumptions. Limitations. One significant limitation was the small sample size. We only had easy access to classmates to collect data from, so only really 20 people, and this was limited by people being absent from class as well. So the limitation I've named, I've said what the limitation was, having a small amount of people. Having such a small sample size means that the results are less representative of the people you are investigating as a population, year 10s overall. An improvement to avoid this limitation is extending the sample beyond the class to more of the school. So what's the issue? We're making conclusions. We're saying gamers have better measures of center for their reflexes, but less consistent measure of spread. But we can only really say that about our particular class, not for year 10s overall. Why? Because we only sampled our class. That's an example of writing up a limitation. What's some examples of other limitations? Limitation related small sample size is that the two different groups, gamers and non-gamers, were different in size, uneven. If you look at our results here, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 gamers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 12 versus 8. 12 gamers versus 8 non-gamers, so it's just a bit unfair there. It's not even. Maybe we would have had closer results, or no difference at all, if we had the same number of non-gamers. Okay, what's a limitation? What's a limitation? What else is there? Only limitation was only looking at the reflex results for the preferred hand. This is an issue because different games and different activities can involve the hands in different ways. For example, FPS games tend to have the left hand controlling movement, so presses are smoother, while the right hand involves using a weapon and aiming, so reflexes would be important for the preferred hand for that game style on the PC. But this would not be the case if the person was playing driving games instead. That's a big limitation, okay? And that's sort of related to us talking about just being a gamer and labeling yourself as a gamer rather than looking into it a bit deeper. And that's another limitation. Another limitation is only asking people if they thought they were a gamer or not, and not asking further information about the type of game they liked to play. So again, there are many more. You need to think of your own with these examples as a guide. You can think of them and ask me or your teacher if they are reasonable. Okay? The more of these that you can put into your discussion, the better, without repeating yourself, because it shows how thoughtful you are about the issues behind the results that you've presented. Okay? Your results were presented the analysis. Mine were a bit inconclusive. So in the discussion, I'm going into why I think they're a bit inconclusive. So here's an example of one assumption. Here's the example of one limitation. And then here are some dot points about others that I could have talked about, but I'm not going to write out for the purpose of the video, and so that you actually have to think for your assignment. Okay? Oh, sorry, this analysis bit needs to go here. So that is the discussion. Suggested, not completed, because if I wrote it out, you'd all just copy. So hopefully that helps you out, and I'll see you in the next video.